I spend my life researching and teaching people how to live a powerful life. I am a believer. I stand for the transformation of humanity. I have found my purpose. My name is Gabrielle McGee, and I am the Rebellious Therapist. So welcome to my Rebellious Therapist podcast, and today we are going to be talking about a subject that I've been asked a lot about and I work a lot with. And before I do that, before we discuss that subject, I want to introduce you to someone. Kira is someone who I've been mentoring for the last few years and have seen her grow and watched her really, like, the level of where Kira has come from and the amount of work you've done, Kira, through the mentorship that we've done together, that I'm really proud of you. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
So the first thing I want to ask you, how is things in New York today?
Things are great.
Yes.
It's extremely cold. It's only 9:45 here, so I'm just out of the bed. But I'm excited to be here and to do this and to finally be able to share, the knowledge that I've had the privilege of, get absorbing from you over the last 2 years, so we can share it on a bigger scale. Because some of the stuff you have to say is magic.
Thank you.
And what I like about it is it's always different. And you always have a different way of looking at things, maybe than the norm. So, yeah, I'm excited for us to be here and just to share it to the world.
Cool, thank you. And and it's my pleasure to have you here, because I know when we work together, it's really easy for me. It's like something that's just flows. So just on the back of that is we put a question box up in my Instagram, and one of the subjects that was really had great interest was about insecurity and anxiety. So I think we're just going to look at, what is anxiety and why are we feeling insecure, and look at it maybe from somewhere where people haven't heard before, and hopefully give people some ideas, because we're really looking at, the how-to series with me and you, Kira. So so look, this is what one of the topics that we'll be covering in this series. So where would you like to start?
Great. Well, then I'll start.
Yes.
Because I'll poke and prod at you to get the best value out of you.
Yeah.
So I was obviously, I'm deep in the podcast world, the information world. So I've heard a lot of what it is, with kind of no set direction on where to go with it.
Yes.
There's a lot of information out there, but it's how we use it and how we apply it to our lives.
Correct.
So hopefully today you can take what Gabrielle shares and apply it to your life, educate yourself, because it's not a one size fits all when it comes to anxiety and insecurity. It's a broad range of experience, childhood, all that kind of stuff. So let's just start with kind of a definition. And then, as you being the Rebellious Therapist,
I know,
can either agree or come up with your own idea on what it is.
Yeah. Look, exactly, because I think it's useful to maybe give different sort of explanations, then people take what they want from there. So
exactly.
Yeah, so you go.
So the American Psychological Association says anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes, like increased blood pressure.
Very good.
So that to me is like just a bunch of words.
Yes.
with nowhere to go with it.
Yes.
So what would you say anxiety is?
Yeah. So let's look at anxiety first of all. So anxiety to me is something that's an informative part of how we function. It's a sensation. And unfortunately, we've made the sensation something of a problem or an issue or to be fearful of. And I think that's very misled when it comes to anxiety. So anxiety is really something that's been really informed within you somatically. And it's something probably based on the past-based experience or past-based fear that the nervous system is now having a reaction to something in the present moment. And a lot of people have anxiety and there's absolutely nothing going on in their environment. So you can
Yeah.
see how, you know, you can see how the process of anxiety does really belong to something in the experience, but unfortunately, the experience will be in the subconscious. It'll not be a conscious level
Mm-hmm.
where the anxiety is operating from. But if you treat anxiety as your friend and really get that sensation, is something that you got to really is stopping you in your tracks, and it's stopping you
Yeah.
for a reason, because
Yeah.
some of the information that is giving you is worth you really looking back and seeing where is this information linked to in my timeline as a child. And most of the anxiety aroused starts off between 0 and 7. That's where, it gets a bit complex, Kira, because what
Yeah.
happens is it's in the subconscious, so your conscious mind will not be able to actually identify it most of the time. That's the most fearful thing for people,
Yeah.
because they can't work this stuff out or have no idea where to look at that point.
Yeah. Well, if it starts between 0 and 7 and next thing you're 25 or 30 and you're going like that's a long time that you're on autopilot, or you've
Exactly.
become accustomed to that's just you.
Yes.
That's just who you are.
Mm-hmm.
When essentially it's not. You've been conditioned in a certain way. But let's just pull it back a little bit. And you say that like the first sign is somatic and nervous system.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like it means in your body. Like that, is that the first sign where you will be like, oh, if there's a shift in your body, is that the first sign of anxiety, or what does it look like?
Yeah, very good. So first of all, it's always an unconscious sort of process. So there is going to be a thought pattern, a thought connected, but you're not aware. There's an experience to start with. There's something there where it reactivates the fight or flight part, or freeze. So what happens then the sensation starts to inform you. So what I mean by sensation, you're going to find some energy in your stomach, or your chest gets tight, or your throat gets sort of like feeling like it's locking up. And some people, it's so extreme where they think they're having a heart attack. And lots of people go to hospital thinking, I'm having a heart attack, because it's very difficult to figure out which is which. But it'd be so extreme, and people don't even know that it's going on until it gets so loud. And what happens if you're not paying attention to the sensation in your body, then it gets so loud that it actually will take you out, and you will think you are having a heart attack.
Yeah.
But actually, it's just the sensation has been ignored. So it's really important to, really, really check in with yourself on a sensational system. Like your body keeps the score. So what I mean by that, if you really connect with the sensations in your body, there's so much information there for you.
Yeah.
The quicker you go there, the quicker you figure out, where am I at today? What's going on? What am I feeling today? Where have I felt this before? Where does this emotion belong to? What am I experiencing in myself, and what's the reality? So there's so many things you could really journal out and figure out, and start to get a handle on calming down the nervous system. And we do retreats, as you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the retreats, when people are really looking at the stuff, they actually have, they can, not often, but they can actually become overwhelmed and go into a panic attack, or, some event could be coming up for those people. But the first thing we do is we have a bowl of ice, and we get their pulse into ice. So what we're doing there is we're calming down the nervous system, so they become more present, and it takes them out of, sort of distracts the sort of trigger or the reaction to whatever is coming up for them. And that's why the ice baths are so really powerful, because it really trains the nervous system. It's given the tolerance to the nervous system to not be so reactive.
Yeah. The resilience, isn't it? If you shock your
Yes,
body, you'll build resilience.
exactly.
Because I think that's one thing that you're the only person I've heard that from.
Mm.
If you like look at anxiety, or again, if we go to the more serious side of it, which is an anxiety attack,
Hmm.
breathe, just breathe, just breathe.
Yes.
And you've said
Oh
to
my
me, you
God.
cannot access your breath unless your nervous system is calm.
See, that I think that's
And
that one of the things I feel. Sorry, Kira, for jumping in there, but one of the things is mad to ask someone to breathe when they have no breath.
yeah,
It's like, oh my God, why would you ask? That, and that actually causes it to be more extreme
stream, yeah,
because people panic because they haven't got any breath.
yeah,
Like they're everything's shutting down. So when you're asking people, it's like, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, and there's no breath there. That actually is a moment where I feel exaggerates the anxiety. But people,
yes.
but people don't know that.
Yeah.
People don't
And I think
understand
that's
that.
a really good piece of advice for
Mm,
people who potentially might be having anxiety attacks, or somebody who's going to support somebody in an anxiety attack.
exactly.
Because that happened to me during the summer.
Mm,
A girl I worked with was having an anxiety attack.
yeah.
And rather than me standing there like helpless, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, I went and I got ice and I gave it to her and I put it on her
Very
wrists.
good.
So in that moment, you can feel like you're helping and serving somebody,
Mm-hmm,
rather than just running away or else just telling them to breathe and kind of, like you said, exacerbating the
mm-hmm.
attack. Or for somebody who knows and is aware, they can just run to the freezer, or like you said, turn on the
A
cold
cold
tap.
tap.
You always
Yeah,
say to me, get in there, Kira, and turn on the cold tap and get the
exactly.
wrists underneath it.
Exactly. Because what we're doing is we're just giving some attention to the nervous system to calm down. That's a
Yeah.
signal. It gets you more present, gets you from the head
Yeah.
state into more present state where you realize there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
I also want to say something here. Just in those early stages, if you can really fine tune yourself, anxiety is always going to be part of us.
Yeah.
So it's not something I've got and someone else hasn't. We all have that level of fight or flight is within us to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we can actually if we can get the early stages where where people say ground yourself. Now, what does that mean? That is like if you can go and especially go out to like grass, go out to take your shoes off, go out and really calm down your nerves. Get the energy from the top of your head. The meridians in the ground pulls down the energy and makes everything really calm.
Yeah.
So that's for the very early stages where people get up in the morning and feel a bit anxious. Well, that's a really great way of sort of coming in and, cooling everything down before it keeps on really like building and building and building by, later on in the day, like you're just completely, you can't breathe,
Yeah, I think a lot as well. If people get up in the morning and say you're feeling off,
Mm.
I think it's in us, like it's automatically that we go to the external.
Yes.
So we look at what's happening in our life. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
my partner, my job, that's what's wrong.
Yes.
When actually it could be so simple as like looking in the internal, like you said, getting out, putting your feet on the ground, or getting in and just blasting cold water on the shower for 10 seconds. That's what I try and do.
Yes.
Every shower I have, just in the morning, just to kind of like build, like you said, build that resilience and build that tolerance, because there's always going to be something external coming at us. But if our internal state, being our nervous system, all that is, if we have more control over it, less will affect us.
Yeah. So it's like a muscle, right? So the more we learn the nervous system to be more, have more tolerance. And you do that through, giving it sort of, that sort of ice, sort of like that tolerance of feeling that cold. That gives a muscle of you not being so reactivated. So that's what's such a great thing about the cold for nervous system, because it means the body's way too hot at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really works and it's really useful. And I've seen it, and we've done it on the retreats as well. We've done some ice work on the retreats. A friend of mine, he came and did that with, he does, Connor does a lot of breath work and ice work for men, and we did bring it to the retreats, and it was amazing to watch people,
Yeah.
there was something like nearly 30 people went through that process, and we were looking and studying and figuring and watching, how that impacted the whole sort of process over the weekend.
So amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of nervous system side of it and
Yes.
the bodily side of it. But what if you don't have those tools and are ready and it's in your head? So, for example, the racing thoughts,
Yes.
and the ringing in your ears, the spiraling, which I'm talking about this because I personally still deal with it every day.
Yeah.
Like, I know that. Thankfully, I have the awareness now that I know I'm going into a spiral. It doesn't mean I stop going in. It means I still am in there, but I know I'm in there.
Yes.
And you have to kind of pull me back a lot of the time and go, hold on a second, Ciara. So, like, what would you say when you're already, like, it's kind of, I think it's important for people to understand that the spiraling thoughts and the voices in your head, like, that's not real. That's not reality. So what would you have to say about that?
So, first of all, what I would say, it's nearly gone too far at that point.
Yeah.
So then, at that point, when it's out of control, or when that state is too heightened, you got to go to the ice.
Yeah.
But what I would say to people, prepare yourself the night before, because you're getting up in the morning with that, you've taught your body to be anxious. So we actually practice being anxious all the time. We don't even know it. So the night
even right
before,
now, I'm like, getting my shoulders settled.
Yes, getting getting really present to where we're at, where the shoulders are, get the breath deepened, just really relaxing. So that is probably the best thing to do with that. And it's the night before to really prepare yourself how you want to feel and get up in the morning. That's a real secret, and that's a real tool.
Yeah.
So, because we've already taught ourselves unconsciously how we want to get up, how we feel.
Yeah.
Because we always feel, we get up in the morning, we're in a really weird state where you're worried, stressed, trying to, rush through things, not very conscious. So we've spent the whole night, all during the night, we haven't told our mind how to manage itself. We just let that sort of free fold, do the thoughts, do the feelings, do whatever, it's been used to do. So to me, that's a real breakthrough. Whenever you get the nighttime before, do your journaling, do your meditation, decide how you want to get up in the mornings, decide how you want to feel. And then when you get up in the morning, that's your commitment.
Yeah. And that's something else I learned from you too, is, I talking about, again, a lot of information out there about the importance of a morning routine.
Yes.
And you said to me, Ciara, it starts the night before.
Exactly.
So, for example, I still did it last night. If I'm on TikTok till all hours of the morning, going through an emotional roller coaster of videos of human beings in the world, that's not settling my nervous system or my whole entire body as a whole to sleep well and to wake up. And then, like you said, the commitment. So I think that was a really, great tip from you. Do I do it? Not all the time.
Not all the time. Yeah, look, you know what we do. None of us do everything all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact we got the tool, we know where we're heading, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love watching some of the TikTok stuff, and you do get carried away, and it does draw you, and that's what it's all about. But as you say, you haven't made that commitment, or you haven't had that agreement with yourself and your thoughts, and it's nearly like a contract when you get up in the morning. And another thing is, what I've been doing, and it really works, is to start smiling. It changes your state immediately. And last week I thought, I'm going to try this out, so I went out shopping and I started smiling at everybody. And everybody started smiling back. And I think, oh my God, I feel great. I'm so so funny.
Yeah, you nearly just have to force yourself into it, because you're gonna think, if you don't force yourself into it, you're gonna think yourself out of it.
Oh, totally.
And that's just the reality of this world, you know.
I love to play, you know. I love to play, and I love to see, you know, some of the stuff that work, you know. It's like I could see people coming towards me and they sort of glance at me, and then I would just go, a beautiful big smile. And it's an automatic response for them.
Yeah.
And I think when they pass, they're probably shocked. I'm like, what is going on? Or what was, you know, probably saying, what's wrong with her? Whatever it is. But it was just so funny I just thought, I'm going to do this today. And just have some fun with it.
Practice, do experiments. So what you're saying is to wake up in the morning and just start smiling.
Yes, start smiling, right?
So I think what we just talked about there was kind of like identifying, you know, the first signs of anxiety. So let's now go, and you love this, let's go to the root causes of it.
Yes.
And you love going back to the child because it's the right, you know,
I love going back.
Complex, like you said, a deep, it's a place you really have to put some work in, is your childhood. But just, I'm going to give an example of my personal experience and how I tie my anxiety back to my childhood.
Correct.
And it's something as simple as looking at my bank account. So I'll log into my online banking and I'll see the number, whatever number it could be, big, small, in whatever it is, and I'll just start spiraling. And I've no control.
So that's a trigger.
Next thing I'm broke. Next thing I've all these bills to pay. And this is the spiral.
And this is all within five. This is all within 5 seconds, is it?
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
Like my body is like gone from underneath me, and my thoughts, and I can feel myself. And thankfully, I'm conscious and aware enough to notice that now, and to notice that that's not the way it should be. I'm not going to say normal because it's not that, you know, it's not really the right word, but that you've gone so far that that's not the true you, and that's not the truth of your world and your life. And I can tie that back to my childhood and the financial struggles that my family went through in our childhood.
You've inherited. Do you understand?
So I've inherited that.
Yeah.
And I watched my parents, you know, struggle, and their own anxiety and their own stress surrounding money and businesses and the recession. And back then I took that on. And now I'm trying to unlearn it.
Exactly.
So that's an example, and maybe that will apply to some people. Maybe it'll show up in a different way. But what would you have to say about anxiety being rooted in your past?
Well, the thing is, first of all, anxiety is always, and I think we're just not talking about anxiety, but the insecurity of it. Right.
And this is where they interlink.
Yeah, they interlink, and you know, you go into an anxious state after you get triggered by, you know, finances for you, right? It might be something else for someone else. Finances and
scarcity mindset, if anybody else needs to know that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's also, we inherited that as Irish people, you know, because we always, you know, we really, as a culture, come up with scarcity. You know, we've come up with that sort of, there's never enough, or no jobs. And I remember in the days where people, you know, had to get a job and keep it, you were like holding on to it, like it was all inside that fear and terror and not having food on the table. And so we have to be really mindful that that's our inherited state as a culture, number one.
Yeah.
And also our parents have inherited that.
Yes, exactly.
So we're talking about generations and generations, and we can really, really link it back to when Ireland had the famine, and you know, that I don't think we ever really dealt with that on a conscious level. Now, you know, your generation is getting more and more sort of aware and sort of like, you know, changing the route, changing the sort of the impact of our ancestors, and giving back the generational sort of trauma.
Yeah, I always say we're breaking generational trauma so that my kids don't inherit this. And, you know, if I have to do that, that's fine. As long as the next generation doesn't have to.
Yeah, hallelujah, you know?
Hallelujah.
So Well, some of the, no, because I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people now over the years, and one of the things is, it starts very early, and it could be, a few of, and it's so amazing where it starts. It can actually, it can start in the womb. But if you got anxious parents around money, guess what you're going to inherit it? Because it's what you're going to, they're teaching you how to have a certain relationship with money. And it's it's from childhood. You've heard all the conversations, you've picked up on all the fears, and everything that's in that is where you're living from.
Yeah.
And as you say, the minute you turn on your app, you look at your bank account, and it doesn't matter what the number is, if it's in a state where you feel, takes you into fear, off you go. Gone. Now, insecurity. We all come up with some type of insecurity in our lives, right? Because, our parents, whenever they're parenting us, that's a moment, if we don't get a secure connection as a child, and there's the formative years between 0 and 3, especially mom, if she's distracted or she's working or she's emotionally somewhere that she's struggling with, then the child is not getting a secure enough attachment. So that's where it all starts. Here we go. We're now feeling insecure in the world, and we need to really protect ourselves. And it's not a conscious process. It's a non-conscious process, but we still feel it. And then between 0 and 7, whatever or however we internally have interpreted what we've experienced in the world, we now are living from there, and our future looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've even worked with twins. Done a lot of work with twins.
Mm.
And if you watch twins, there's always one more secure than the other, or one is more sort of in control than the other, or more bossy than the other, because I think that decision's made in the womb.
Yeah. Very true.
And it's all survival with twins at that point.
Yeah.
They're in the womb, and it's not like they're in, there's so much change and process goes on for two people inside such a small space and big process that you can see the personalities when they come out who take charge. It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch,
Yeah. And so what you mean by secure attachment from 0 to 7 is to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved by your parents.
And be held.
A which?
And to be held.
To held, yeah.
Yeah, to be to be hugged and held in moments where it's needed is where you've got to watch. Now, here is a get out clause for every parent out there. You are never going to get it right.
Yeah.
It's never going to be something that you're going to master. But I think the real, value is there's so much education nowadays that wherever, I see a lot of anxious children, but you can now, intervene much quicker, much younger, because now we know.
Yeah. I think there's a statistic from the holistic psychologist that says if you're 60% a healthy parent, your child will be okay.
Yes. And look, there's some amazing children around. And also, there's so much work we can do these days with people that takes away, I feel, a lot of the stress. But we got to, really start figuring this stuff out and getting it into schools really, really quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
so what other things would people have anxiety about that might have started in childhood, or anxiety or insecurity? So for me, it's money. What other kind of would they be able to identify or tie it back to?
Yeah, sure. So some of the things that I see, I see a massive academic on insecurity around people being left in creches and play schools.
Wow.
So the development stage of a child, some of them are going, and it's it's no fault because parents had to go back to work. There was a stage where, I see a massive shift between the younger times when mom stayed at home. And when mom, there was a time where the mothers had to go to work to earn money to put food on the table as well as the fathers. So there was a big shift in the level of anxiety and insecurity and attachment styles. So you give a child, And also there's some reports and evidence to know it. Like, if you go into an old people's home, if you watch that environment, the old people's really shut down because there's no stimulation. Well, they
Mm-hmm.
found that in the early stages of the children as well.
Oh.
So, there's a lot of evidence coming out now, and a lot of, understanding of why we've got so much level of insecure. And then it shows up in attachment, anxious attachment. If you see the children really, really anxious because but also, I get adults where they're really anxious and they're trying to get their relationship to secure them in that anxiety, and really reach out to the outer world to see if they can get that state to supported by that rather than going internal. Then if you don't go internal, if you don't get back to the young age stuff and get that child really back into some, and that's what's amazing. What's amazing, we can go back now. We can work, because I work a lot with the subconscious, so we can go back and really create a state for the child. And I know you've had some hypnosis as well, and go back in there and get that child secured in a way that then that process doesn't have to show up in the future. Yeah. And we can do that also with I'm a big believer in hypnosis meditation.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways now. I'm working through the issues. I'm working through the stuff through therapy and, retreats, all of it. That's why I get so much results when people come out of my retreats on Monday. Monday, they don't know themselves, because we've done a really deep dive, number one. And we've also processed a lot of the insecurities that shows up in people's lives. That we go through a system within the weekend that really gets a lot of that stuff complete. And if it's not complete, then the work that needs to be done is much clearer. Where the why is much clearer to people.
Yeah, so kind of where we went briefly today was like identify and managing it, and the practical tools and tips, and then obviously getting to the root of your anxiety.
Yes,
is a much more complex, deeper subject.
Yeah.
But what would you say to somebody who maybe just starting to identify their anxiety? Like, what would you say to somebody who just kind of needs to tap into the childhood, like just to start with today? What could they do today to tap to kind of find, where did this actually come from?
Yeah, perfect. So one of the things that I say to people is get your journal out and just start documenting how you feel. What's the sensations? What's your thoughts? What are you feeling? And then start asking the right questions to yourself. And whenever you get all down, like I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling low, I feel really anxious, I feel really tight, my body's like really, my arms are feeling like really pumping, or my chest is feeling tight, and you write that down on the left hand side of the page, and then you go to the right hand side of the page and say, okay, whereabouts have I felt this before? What's the first time I felt this? When, how often do I feel this? So start engaging with it, start getting some consciousness into the sort of process, and get you more, your awareness sort of into the process, because I would say a lot of times you're in that process without you being consciously aware.
And I think it might be important to note as well, like on that right hand side, you may go to something that's currently present in your life. Correct. Or it could be like a past relationship with a partner. It could be a past boss.
Yeah.
But what we're really saying here is go even further back there.
Correct.
Because that boss, that partner really only represented a part of you that maybe, was affected in your childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just what I call a secondary moment.
Yeah.
But you will be repeating the patterns as you go along. You will be feeling that
same. Kind of cut it.
Until you get if you don't get to the core issue where it really started, then you will not sort of have the same completion.
Yeah.
But you might become more aware, but being more aware doesn't necessarily mean it's going to resolve the issue. It'll help. Yeah. But it's a big part of it, but it's not really where you're going to make the difference. Cool.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's really great. I hope this is, because I think there's so much. I really love this conversation because I hope that people will get a lot of sort of understanding and direction of, and not be so fearful when they feel anxious, or not be so fearful whenever they know this is just, what I call, it's like a machine. It's a mechanical reaction, because that's what your body is. Your body is something mechanical that's going on rather than, it becoming you. And if you can actually get a process where you can watch the process rather than become it, then I think you're getting into mastery stages.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is only a part of you. It is not you.
It's not you.
Like you said at the start, befriend it.
Mm.
And if it's too much of a touchy subject to befriend it just yet,
yes,
at least use it as information.
Yeah, completely.
Use it as a separate part of you that's coming to tell you something.
Perfect.
Because when you start to identify and attach to it, that's when it gets a little bit more.
That's when it gets control of you.
Control of you, yeah.
Okay, so
amazing. Thank you.
I think we're at an end. So thank you, Ciara. That was really, really, really great. And I want to say thank you to all my listeners, and please subscribe. Take care. Bye.
See you next week.
Bye. Yeah, Bye. See you next week. Bye. You've been listening to the Rebellious Therapist podcast. For more information, you can follow me, the Rebellious Therapist, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You can find further information on my website, therebellioustherapist.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.